Alright, so 200 adults shopping in a supermarket were asked about the highest level of education they had completed and whether or not they smoked cigarettes. Results are summarized in the table below. So, what kind of table is this?
The first
bar.
that's not.
It's a frequency.
Yeah. Wait.
No.
because
it's not.
1 second.
Give us a second. Yeah.
Contingency. Wait, is it not?
Yeah.
It looks like contingency.
It's a contingency.
It's one of those
Yes.
frequency.
It is.
No, it's not one of those.
Contingency.
It's a frequency table.
Oh, it is.
But it's under the
Wait, what?
contingency table.
Okay, it's a frequency. It looks good.
Oh, I was just going off the one that looked like that.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a frequency table because it has counts.
What is that?
I'm very.
I am still confused
I
as
thought
well.
this was
Is like a contingency table a form of a frequency table? Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, technically, I guess.
Okay.
It has counts. It's not relative frequency. I guess is where I was going with that.
Oh, okay. So we
it is
got
a
too
contingency
specific.
table.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
We're trying to be original.
All right. So, identify the variables. So, what are the categorical variables?
Highest level of education.
Level of it, yeah.
They were saying like the education level, right? And like smoker and non-smoker.
Education level and whether you
Okay.
smoke.
Education level and whether or not a person smokes. Wow, not where. And I start out with an H. Okay. Focus. Whether. Oh, that's nice. Computer just decided to restart itself.
Nice.
All right, what about quantitative?
So, 200 adults. Wait,
Like the
Yeah.
number.
Variable.
The number of smokers.
I don't think there is there
Wait,
not
there's
any.
a number of people.
You might have to look in the table to get the information.
Like the total people that were like interviewed.
Whether it was a 2-year college or 4-year college.
Bingo.
Oh, okay.
Education level by number of years in school.
See, I like when they give us the variables like when it's
Explicitly?
Like, age, weight, neck size for the bear one.
Next.
Which was
What is
very
the size
weird.
of your gap?
And that is because this can be measured numerically. All right, so find each percent. So these, you might want to get a highlighter out because I'm going to try to highlight the things that are key in the way these are worded because these are all going to sound almost the same, but they're all different.
Oh man.
Alright.
Oh wait, yeah, they do sound like this. Oh, that's just rude. Why do they sound
What percentage of shoppers? What
I mean, I guess I kind of understand it.
so? Kind of, but like,
They do that.
But like it's like really weird.
What percent of shoppers were smokers?
Any ideas
So the
before I
first
give
one
you the
is
answer?
32,
So first we gotta figure out, it's a ratio, so we gotta
Not
figure out.
32.
So how many people are in the high
Like,
school?
what percent of the shoppers
like-
were smokers?
32
Okay.
divided
So
by 90.
61 over 93.
What?
The first one's talking about smokers.
What
So
percent of
200 is the
shoppers?
bottom. So we're all shoppers. We're smokers with
Smokers, so it'd be
32 over 200.
50.
Yes.
Oh.
So
So are you going to highlight things?
Yes, I was just giving y'all a second to see.
16%.
So, what percent of shoppers, well, I need to do this smaller. So what percent of shoppers were smokers with only a high school education? So we were looking at smokers with only a high school education, which was the 32, out of the total number of shoppers, which was 200. And yes, that is 0.16 or 16%. All right, how about the next one? What percent of the shoppers with only a high school education were smokers?
93 of them have high school education.
So
32 were smokers.
32 over 93.
Yep, 32 over 93. So the key here to look at is the percent of shoppers with only high school education, and then were smokers. So it's basically smokers with high school education out of the number of shoppers that were only had a high school education, basically. How about the next one?
So like
What percent of the smokers had
all
only?
high school education. So
Okay,
there are
the
50
smokers,
smokers.
so it would be
32
32
over
over
50.
Yep. 32 over
I
50.
just realized we didn't
Oh yeah, we'll go back to it in just a second. I don't have my calculator, so it's not even phasing me. So what percent of the smokers had only high school educations? So smokers and then only high school education.
They do all almost on somewhere.
Hmm?
It's the way they word it.
Yes.
The difference.
And it's good that without me having to really explain them, y'all could kind of already figure them out, because most of the time that's not the case and people end up very confused. And then I feel like if y'all were able to do this without me explaining it, it's really promising for you actually doing all the problems on your own.
Okay.
No good.
All right, so what were these? So what was the second
I
one?
got 34.4%. Well, yeah, 0.34.
I would say in general, go out to like on a percent, like one decimal place. There's going to be times where I tell you just round to the whole number, and that's fine. But a lot of times, I want to say, I think it's the stats exam. There's a comment that says something about go out to 4 decimal places, like on the actual exam. So just know if they say that, or when we get the, when I look at the prep stuff, we'll make sure we know what they are wanting. But for the sake of mine, like 1 decimal place in the is fine, or the whole percent is fine. What about the third one? What was that one?
0.64, 64%.
Yep. All right. And we are going to be coming back up here in a minute and doing something, but keep going for now. Do these data suggest there's an association between smoking and education level? Give statistical evidence to support your conclusion. So, we want to look at like the whole group, what percentage are smokers. We want to look at comparatively how many people that, say, we did a 4-year college were smokers and things like that. And we need all the numbers to be basically the same to say that they're independent. Okay, if they're not, then it's not independent. So, what percent of the whole group are smokers?
25.
Okay. So, it's going to be 25% of the whole group are smokers. How about what percent of the 4-year college people smoke?
What percent of 4-year
About 15.3%.
Okay, how did y'all get that?
I
13 divided by 85 is going to give you, about 15%. Oh, wait. Of 4-year college smoke. So right away already we're starting to think, what? Are they going to be independent or not?
Not independent.
No, but yes.
Wait.
You are right. The answer is no.
Oh.
But let's go ahead and do the other one so you can see. So what about high school, or well, let's do 2-year education because that's the next one down. So what percent of 2-year college smoke?
About
Around
20%.
Okay, 22% of 2-year college. Or what did you say? Did y'all say 23? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it's
It rounds
22.
up.
it's
I heard 22 and I stopped listening. 23% of 2-year college smoke. And then what about high school? 34% grads smoke. So y'all are good on where those percentages came from, right? Everybody was okay with that?
Yes.
When you mean independent, what exactly
Yeah,
do you
I'm
mean
confused
by
on
that?
that. What do you
Because
mean
I understand that
independent
it's
on?
not independent because they're not like the same, but like what does that mean?
So basically, okay, let me figure out how to word this the best. It's saying that like the amount of college you have does not play a would not be playing a role in how much you smoke. Basically.
If it was independent, it would say that, or if it wasn't, or is this saying that now?
So like it's independent.
This is not independent, so it is saying it's not.
It's saying it's not associated.
Okay. That's
Wait.
that's a completely different thing. Association,
Oh.
there is an association here. That's what we're going to get to in a second.
Oh, I thought
There is
you
an
were explaining
association, but it's not independent. So, think about, okay, I'm really bad at explaining this. Hold on. Just give me 1 second. Because I'm trying to do it with a different example than this one, but this is the one that's in my head.
Okay.
So, it would say, let's go back to the ice cream thing yesterday. So it would say that if something were to be independent, then it should be that every flavor choice should have been chosen the same for male and female.
Okay.
So it wasn't because there was 30% that chose vanilla on one and then 20 for the other one.
Yeah.
So that was saying that, it
It
was
not
different.
independent.
Yeah, it was not independent.
So we would say that. Would you say that most things are probably not going to be independent then?
It really just depends on what we're looking at. There are going to be a decent amount of things that are independent, but eventually we'll get to mathematically we're actually seeing if things are independent in a different way.
Okay.
This is for categorical data right now, technically. When we get to the next few chapters, we get into quantitative, and so it's a little different in how we decide if it's independent or not. So with this one, it's not independent because basically it's saying that if you went to 4 years of college, only 15% of those people smoke. But if you went to only high school, 34% smoke. So basically, they're not independent because they're all different. They should be the same for it to be independent. But we can say there's an association because 34% of high school grads smoke, 23% of 2-year college, 15% of 4-year college. So that percentage decreases the more education you have. So that's an association.
Okay.
So, not independent. Independence is one of those things that will also make more sense the more problems that we do.
Okay.
You kind of just have to see it, in a sense. So there is an association people with high school diploma are more likely to smoke than those with a 4-year degree. Now, obviously, this was also only tested at one supermarket with 200 people. When we get into sampling and stuff more, and we actually would be like, quote unquote, conducting these surveys ourselves, really not a big enough group to fully make an assumption about something, because you would have a type of bias because you're at one location seeking this information. Now, if they said we went to 200 supermarkets and talked to 200 people at each one, it's a little different. But because it's one supermarket with 200 people, I mean, that's probably all in the same city. You would expect probably a similar dynamic within that area.
Yeah.
Are there Walmart outside?
Huh?
Are there Walmarts outside of America? I don't. I mean,
I could not answer that question for you. All right, so then the last question on this side says, does this indicate that students who start smoking while in high school tend to give up the habit if they complete college?
So,
yes.
I think that's what that means.
Oh.
I don't think that's really related
Well, what
to
if
the
they
information
die
we're given.
Yeah, they
of
could.
smoking and they never like got?
Like they could, but I also feel like that's not what the chart is saying either.
Okay.
That question is kind of not related.
So the answer is no. We can't infer that because this data does not tell us about trends over time. Now, if the question was, how much education do you have? Did you smoke in high school? When did you stop? Or have you kept going? That's completely different. But that's not what this survey was asking. So we can't make that assumption. Okay, one thing really quick to point out is that these totals they are marginal distributions.
So the whole row of totals and then the bottom row?
Yeah, all totals are marginal distribution. Okay, so now before we go to the next page, I want to find the conditional distributions because we're going to need it for the next thing. And once I get off this screen, I can't jump. I mean, I can, but it's more difficult to jump back. So we're looking for conditional distributions. One of them we already found. So conditional distribution is basically going to be the education out of the amount of smokers first, and then we're going to do education out of non-smokers. So 32 out of 50 is going to be this first one. Okay, I'm going to write it really tiny. If you want to write it on the side or on the back, toward the bottom of the paper, you'll have room. I have stuff on the back of mine, but it probably won't take you quite that much space when we actually do the back.
So the conditional what?
These are going to be conditional distributions. So I'll go ahead and put an arrow down here to them where they're going. So basically, this is going to be 32 out of 50. I know that's really tiny, but that was, we had said was 64%. Okay, so then 5 out of 50 is what for the next one? 10%. And then the last one, 13 out of 50.
I got 26%.
26%. Now, when you add those percents up, what do you notice?
Equal 100.
It equals 100. If it doesn't, something's wrong.
So, very.
Okay. Now, the same is not true going across. You don't add up 64 or subtract 100 from, or 64 from 100 and get this one. Doesn't work that way. Okay, that's not what we're trying to find. That would be finding something different. So, now we're going to do high school and then non-smoker and go down. So this is going to be 61 out of 150.
About 41.
41%. 17 out of 150.
About 11.
Okay. And 72 out of 150.
48.
Yep, 48%. All right, so these percentages are going to be used on the next question for the segmented bar graph. So that's why we did it. You're probably like, why did she choose to do it that way over the other way, like smoker out of the total for high school? We could have also done that, but that's not what this next question's asking for. So that's why we did this. So, does everybody have this? I can go to the next one.
Yours.
Okay. Hello? All right, so create a segmented bar graph comparing education level among smokers and non-smokers. Label your graph clearly. So what I would do is I would set up a graph like this. I would do percentages on the outside. So remember, segmented bar graph is going to have one bar for smokers, one for non-smokers, and then we're going to break it up into the amount of education that they have. And rather than coloring this one in, I'm probably just going to write the description. I'm going to write like high school 4-year or 2-year in the box. So I'm going to go ahead and draw off my box because it's going to go all the way up to 100%. And if your boxes aren't exactly the same, don't worry. I don't like get out a ruler and measure that they're the same or anything like that.
It's like, it's not the same. 0.
Some people are that strict. I'm not one of them. So then we're going to take those percentages from the other side, and they're going in here. So I'm going to do high school on the bottom, and remember we want the exact same things like to line up. So we want them to be in the same spot on the graphs so that it helps us compare them. So smokers that only had a high school education was 64%. So that's coming up in this area somewhere, and I'm just going to write high school, like HS in this box. If you want to make it all fancy and color code it and all that, that's fine, but this is sufficient. So then 2-year was 10%, so that's just going up a little bit farther. And then 4-year was 26%, so that should basically be everything that's left over for that one. Now, for non-smokers, high school education was 41%. So, a little lower. 2-year was 11%. And then the rest of it was 48%. So that looks about right. Oh, not 48. I don't need to write that in there. 4 year. Any questions about that? Nothing? Okay. If you chose to color code it and not write this stuff in here, you would need to do a little box and show that what color you were shading with represented each thing, basically. So, and I think I may have mentioned this like last week sometime, but this is like the one math class you can get away with like writing in pen sometimes. Because you're gonna want colors for certain things, and that's fine. So, anyways. All right, so what other types of graphical displays could you use instead of a segmented bar chart?
Just a regular bar chart. I bought bar chart.
Okay, yeah, probably side-by-side bar charts. Yep. So you'd have basically high school, 2-year, 4-year, and then you would have the level of smoking for each one.
Do a pie chart.
Mm-hmm. You'd have to do 2 of them because you would need one for smoking and one for non-smoking.
And that was what this was.
No, we would want graphical display. So those 2 were what came to my mind, the pie charts and then the side-by-side bar charts as well. I'm not going to draw the pie charts because more or less it's just the information we just put up here in a circle. So I'm not going to do that, but we will do the side-by-side bar chart. I'm going to do it a little bit differently so that you just see the other set of information. So basically, when we did, let me throw this paper back up here for a second. When we did these values, we were doing like 32 out of 50, and then like 5 out of 50, and so on and so forth. Now we're going to do it the other way. So we're going to do it for like 32 out of 93, 5 out of 22, and we're going to get those numbers that way. And so we're going to end up doing basically 6 things. And we're going to get these other percentages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do them over here on the side, and then I'm going to do my side-by-side bar chart over here with that information.
Okay.
So, let's see. High school smoker was the 32 out of 93. What does that come out to be? All right, and then 2-year smoker, and I'm just going to do 2-year S for that, and then I'm going to do NS for non-smoker.
5 out of 22.
5 out of 22. $22.7.
Yeah.
Okay. And 4-year. 4-year smoker, I should say.
13 out of 85.
13 out of 85, which is 15.3. All right, now if you were to add those 3 numbers up, what do you notice?
Definitely not 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're working a different way now. Okay? So don't just assume, oh, my numbers don't add up to 100%. That's a problem. Because when we go through now, this looks like it's all the same thing because we're dealing with smoker. But actually now what we're looking at is out of high school. So our 2 high school ones need to add up to 100. So when we go through and do the high school non-smoker, when we add it to that number, it should be 100.
Oh, gotcha.
So a high school non-smoker is what? 61 out of 93.
65.6.
Okay, and if we look, 65.6 plus 34.4 is
100%.
100%. So we're good. 2-year non-smoker. Not 72. You said 17. Wait. I was looking at all the numbers here together because I have them all like cramped together.
I looked at.
I heard 17. Actually, I heard 72 out of 85.
That's
Because
what I
you're
heard
not the
too.
only one. Because that's what I said.
Oh, because you were doing the 4-year one. Okay.
Oh, okay. I was like,
I was like, because I wrote it down and I was like, wait a second. I looked at my paper. I was like, now I'm really confused. So what is this one?
77.3.
77.3, and we add that to 22.7, and we're good to go. And then 4-year non-smokers, since, Josh already gave us this one. 72 out of 85. 84.7%. Now, on rare occasions, if you rounded to the nearest whole number, what may happen is that your numbers don't add up to 100. They may add up to like 99 because of that. That's okay. I would say go back and look at the unrounded numbers and see if that looks a little bit more accurate. But a lot of times, if you are rounding to the nearest whole number, that may happen. Or you could theoretically get up to like 101. And obviously that doesn't logically make sense, but that would be why. So don't stress about it if that happens. All right, so now I'm going to do a side-by-side bar chart. I'm going to use red and green since that's what I just used over here. So I'm still going to go up to 100%. Okay, just because I have a number that's pretty big anyway, so I might as well. And then I'm going to have 2 bars for high school, 2 for 2-year, and 2 for 4-year. So my red is going to be for smoker, and green is for non-smoker for me. Now, if you did all your math in pencil and you're still going to color code, obviously, we don't really, the math doesn't need to be color coded, but your chart would need to be to specify what each thing is. So, for high school smoker, that's 34.4%. High school non-smoker was 65.6%.
Mine too.
2-year smoker is 22.7. Two-year non-smoker 77.3. Four-year smokers 15.3. So I should try to make that look a little lower than 22. And then non-smoker is 84.7. So that's stuff like this is why I'm like I don't get out a thing and measure it because
Wow,
Very
you
hard to
planned it
make
that
them.
way.
I don't know why, but mine makes me think of the Veggie Tales.
Yeah.
Seeing Bob and Larry.
That way we basically use the same colors. I didn't realize.
Or a good solid watermelon. I can also see that.
Yeah. It reminds me of my Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons I have in my house because they are these exact colors.
Mine is giving cotton candy.
Yes, it is.
So, the last thing to kind of note with this is that as education level increases, the percent of the people who smoke decreases.
I love how this is one question, but with like,
Welcome to stats class.
Sorry, isn't it hard?
yeah.
You weren't wrong when you said.
Like, I imagine you were trying to figure out also why I said your tests take 2 days. This is why.
But also when you
Because,
said-
like, we only have 5 minutes left of class.
And we just did like.
One problem.
And
Yeah.
also when you said 2 days, I thought that meant it was going to be extremely difficult and stuff, but it just seems like it takes so long.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't say it was easy either.
Well,
I mean,
not
yeah, I
like
didn't
it's
say it
gonna-
was easy, but.
Okay, well, not like it's going to be super easy, but it just takes a good minute.
Anyways, we'll look at a couple more examples tomorrow. The one that was left in our notes, if I forget about that one, please remind me. I remembered it earlier, and then I forgot it again until you said it. And then there's a couple out of the book, some even ones we may look at as well. Since this one didn't have as many examples as some of them that we
Are gonna do okay.
will do have.
Physics.